All right. So, I thought, you know what? I've been printing and I was doing live streams and stuff with all the problems I've been having, but I finally have stuff working and printing. I should start doing more regular updates to actually fill in those gaps, like the stuff I've actually done, because I haven't really been keeping track of most of that stuff. So we have the two printers here running. You can see my setup is pretty messy. It's basically in my room. So, like I have my laundry over there. I gotta go do later. Yeah, so here we have the Ender 3. This is not the Pro. And kind of get out of here, you can see it's full all its glory. And this print is nearly done. It's a coin. You can see it's just about done. Hopefully be done as this prints. It's my maker coin that I made myself. Here is the first version I tried to print. That is a weird thing about the Ender 3 that I severely don't like. So here's the original coin. I realized as I started printing it that it was going to print hollow, which is no good. So I printed this one, and it actually turned out pretty good. We're going to let it cool down. You can see the bed heat on the right there, 57 degrees. We're going to let that cool down for a bit. Probably why I do this video, and at the end we'll pop it off. Over there, on the Tevo Tornado 2018 edition, we have a fan cover printing for the Ender 3. I've done a ton of stuff to the Ender 3 just to get it working. I had to replace the hot end. I replaced the tube. I didn't have to replace the tube, but I kind of ended up having to replace the tube after all the other modifications. So I have the new thermistor, hot end, and heater wires, all that stuff running, and I would like to clean that up eventually. I have this little thing that I originally printed for the Tevo Tornado, but I'm using it for the Ender 3, and it doesn't really... Let's see if I can move this thing over without dropping it off. All the way off. Yeah, so hang on. I originally printed this for the Tevo Tornado, and if you can see here, it looks like it's just missing it. So it's not rubbing on the Z screw. But I still might put something here that just to push this over to make sure it doesn't rub on the Z screw. And this angle seems pretty sharp as well. As you can see, it just comes down and in. So I'm not really a fan of that either. But it's kind of my fault for putting that little guide there. Another thing I did was I installed dampeners on the X and Y. So you can probably kind of tell here there's a gap. A little gray, silver. That's the dampener. I've also put one on here, but unfortunately, on the non-pro version even, the dampener was not allowing the bed to go all the way back and hit the stop. And so it was actually crashing into the side of not this stepper motor, that stepper motor down there. So I had to print that blue one, and I remembered that for some reason, I don't know what setting, I haven't tweaked yet, but the Tevo Tornado is not printing accurate parts. It prints things, and it prints them completely, and it can print really big things, and it's great, and they have actually pretty good detail, even on like small figures and stuff. But, and I'll show you a figure I painted, actually. It's this guy here. That was actually printed on the Tevo Tornado. And, I mean, I'm not the best painter, mini painter, but it's got good details. It's got everything from, the horns. You can even kind of tell the eyebrows. The wings are fantastic. Little feet, even. The health potion on his hip. Like, it's great. So, limited by my painting ability. Yeah, so I printed a bunch of mods for the Tevo Tornado. I think I went over that in a different video, but I have the Raspberry Octopi here. I'm probably going to get a second Octopi to print the Ender 3 with. And I have this, I got this mount. Then I realized that this whole Pi mount system with this tray, while it's good, there's two problems. First of all, I have it on this foam, which is not really that thick. But as you can see, it's preventing the Raspberry Pi case from sitting flat. So I think I have to raise up the entire printer on some taller feet or something to be able to get that Pi case to sit nicer, not on an angle. And then what I just printed today is tested one of these to see how accurate my printer is, and these go underneath, pops onto, these little screws. So just pops on like that. I can't really see what I'm doing. Pops on like that, and that allows you, it's supposed to allow you to be able to turn those knobs a lot easier. And eventually I want to get a nut or something up here so that this screw, right now when you turn the nut underneath, the screw on top turns, and it's no good. So yeah, so I printed this as a test. I started printing this next thing right away, so I didn't really actually get to try this. But my concern is that with this this piece here, that this is not gonna fit. So I won't be able to turn this valve piece with this here, and it might just fit if this thing was flush, but unfortunately it's not. So we're gonna have to see that in a bit. I did have this Raspberry Pi camera on here, but unfortunately one of the pieces snapped. And I mean I can't monitor it right now, at least not in a nice way. I could probably fit it somewhere, like that, and turn it or whatever. But I want to fix that. I want to get a proper monitor because I want to be able to monitor the printer as it's going if I'm at work or whatever. But what I'm thinking I'm going to do instead is put some kind of piece that goes on top of these screws, and it can be like a bed handle, so I don't have to touch the plate, which honestly, this edge of the plate up until the underneath, kind of see the insulation starts. It's completely cool to the touch. It's basically glass. So all here is not heated, and it's cool to the touch. So I mean, you can pull the bed like that right now anyways, but I would just like the extra handle to be able to pull and not always reaching under and touching the glass and dirtying the glass or whatever. And I'd like to mount the camera on the bed so that this axis of motion is nullified compared to the print itself, so that it always will be in focus. I can just focus it once and don't have to worry about it. And also the only vibration, well, it might get a little bit of vibration from the whole printer printing, but unlike the side here, the whole print is shifting back and forth constantly, so the image looks like this on the camera. Like it's not a good image. I mean, it was okay. I printed this test calibration thing after I did a whole bunch of calibration. Should have done it before, but really it wasn't even printing before. So both the Tevo Tornado, I had to do a bunch of mods on it just to get it printing, and the Ender 3, I had to do a bunch of mods on it just to get it printing. If you follow my last live stream, you know that I completely replaced the motherboard because it blew the first live stream I ever had on this channel. So great for me. That was when I was putting together the Ender 3. And while I was waiting for the Ender 3, I bought the Tevo Tornado. Very happy with both at this point now that the issues are fixed. Let me just tell you, I have these little things just to protect the edges and that kind of stuff. If you're planning on getting into 3D printing, you better have a lot of time, extra cash than what you're just planning on paying for the printer and the PLA and stuff itself. You better be willing to buy a lot of extra parts. There's my spare Raspberry Pi. This one, no clue what happened to it, but it basically blew. This little piece of plastic stuck to it right now. Basically, it's not working. I don't know why. The SD card reader is not reading the SD card, so I can't use it with Octopi. This cover and stuff has been great. Again, I printed this on all this stuff on the Tevo Tornado because I didn't have my Ender 3 up and running until just a few days ago, or I guess maybe even yesterday. I think it was yesterday actually. Man, time seems like it's flying faster than it is, but it's not. Anyways, so yeah, so that basically meant that the all these parts were printed pretty low accuracy, and I adjusted the flow rate. Flow rate's fine. I adjusted the sorry, I adjusted the E steps, then I adjusted the flow rate. Those are both accurate as can be right now. So I don't know why my parts are inaccurate. Part of it is warping, and that's what I had to deal with. With this part, it was just so badly warped. You can probably kind of tell that the piece on the right is super, super thin, and that's how much material I had to take off just to get it to fit because of how badly it was warped. Okay, let's go over the stuff I actually printed on the Ender 3. So this was the first thing I actually printed with the Ender 3 when I got it working yesterday. I think I started the print in my last live stream. This is the actual print. So, pretty beautiful. I think it came out pretty well. It was made, for the printer, but I had severe, I can tell, just by looking at the lines that are uneven, I had an issue somewhere. And I snapped the tail off, I snapped the top of this ear off, I even snapped this paw off. I don't know if you can tell anymore. I glued them all back together. But severe, severe issues with this print. I didn't understand why. And so I thought, okay, well, it looks pretty good. So the whole model is printing. It's not a problem like with the SD card or anything like that, like it did with my Tevo Tornado. So let's see if we can figure out what it is. So I printed this little microscopic benchy, and for comparison, here's the benchy I printed for the Tevo Tornado, and here's my mouse. So you can see the Tevo Tornado benchy. This is basically, again, like the second print I did, basically. The first print was not up there anymore. It was the bed print, the whole bed. It prints it and does a test. And I was having issues, and that's why I noticed I had issues with the Tevo Tornado, and that's why I had to get the Octopi, etc. So yeah, so I printed this benchy pretty much once I had the Tevo Tornado actually working, and there's minor things like some of the layers are not quite perfect. I was having some extrusion issues, but I mean you can read the bottom; it's perfectly smooth. You can probably see the reflection, but it's not. Yeah, I mean you can read it. CT3P XYZ dot XYZ, or is it 3D? CP3D XYZ. But I mean, all around was pretty good. It had like minimal stringing and all that. So yeah, it was great. So onto this little guy. He was started off really good. It stuck to the bed. It doesn't have that same shiny surface because of the Ender 3, and you can even see the infill because this is transparent filament. But once it passed sort of the top of the bow, it just started to completely fall apart, the whole thing, and I couldn't understand why. It just wasn't printing; it was printing in midair, and you can see these huge gaps. But actually, I fixed it while it was printing. I just took the filament. I manually just fed it through to try and get it to extrude, and just built up a little bit of material. You can see these globs where I was extruding, and then the very, very top of it printed just fine. So I figured either A, I got some clog, B, this filament is trash and it's weak, like this dog was super weak, and this thing's not printing well, so it could be just bad filament, or C, I just need to do tuning in it, and whatever the tuning that I need to do is this print is super off. So that's exactly what I did. I did my E-steps calibration. That's actually all I've done right now. I haven't even done the flow calibration yet. But I just did the E-steps calibration and printed myself my little transparent Pikachu. And he's been amazing. Pretty amazing, actually. I don't know how well this is going to pick it up, but yeah, you can see he's no infill, just a bit like 3 or 4 walls or something like that. You can almost see the SteelSeries logo all the way through him. Just only if you kind of catch the light right. Oh well. Anyways, yeah, and he's pretty strong. I would say I wouldn't go too hard. Ear tips didn't come out super nicely, and there was just a tiny bit of stringing on the tail, but I think it's already all cleaned up. But otherwise, yeah, he turned out really well. I don't have my other Pikachu one from the Tevo Tornado here to compare it with. It's at work, but yeah, just overall, did pretty good. I gotta figure out maybe what's going on with the ear tips, and if you look closely, the bottom first few layers up until the tail kind of separates from the body, they're really wonky, and I don't know what that is. I would just presume that something in the printer's not settled yet. But then the same kind of issue happened at the ear tips, and it could just be that it was printing too fast for these small bits, but it definitely looks a little warped. Could be too hot for this filament, who knows. So it's not perfect yet. But here is the coin, and like I already showed you, here's the failed version. It didn't actually fail. I stopped it. Didn't realize it was gonna fail if I wasn't careful. Didn't have any infill, so I mean, still kind of cool. Oh, and I also did a temperature tower to find out maybe what's the best temperature to print at. And to be honest, this filament, there's some noticeable difference. It's probably going to be impossible to pick up on the camera here. But if you can look at the corner, look at the very edge. Come on, focus for me. You look at the very edge, you can see rippling on the left side, rippling on the right side, and right where my index finger is here, it's almost perfectly smooth. So about those temperatures, which for me, for this Chinese stuff is like 210 to 205 or something like that. Those are the best temperatures. And again, it's just this weird Hong 3D stuff. So yeah, I don't know. You're gonna have to read it upside down. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's any good. This AMZ 3D stuff that I'm using is pretty good. The blue and the red. You can tell they're both the same PLA. It's pretty good. I mean, I've got some parts. I have some spare stuff over there, stuff that didn't work out or print. These were like my first prints on the Tevo Tornado. And while they didn't actually turn out that bad, like this guy looks really good. He's not strong enough. Something. I broke his leg off. Other than when I was taking the supports off. And this guy, I forget. Oh yeah, he jammed halfway through, so he never actually finished printing. If you look at both of them, like they look like they would have been perfectly fine minis. So this is the one thing I have not shown off yet. Well, you're gonna see it anyways. But nobody who is gonna know who that name is just by googling it. You're not gonna find out. So yeah, this is I have his name, a nameplate here, and this is the main character from our game, and he's printed in the same blue PLA here, but he's painted gold or silver, and you can see the white balance is a little off, so it looks kind of yellow, metallic gray, but he's actually pure silver. If I turn the flash on, you probably. Flash. Yeah, there you go. So you can see he's like pure silver, very, very shiny dude. Even got, the whole back, and he's posed from our game, so he's my Secret Santa present, so I think my Secret Santa will be very happy with that. Other than that, yeah, let's pop this bad boy off, and I'm not really quite sure. I never have a good tripod setup thing here, so I want to do something like this. No, that can't work. Why did I think that would work? I guess I can just do like this. Maybe close. What is it facing here? Facing the wrong way? Oh, it was. Okay. I don't actually have a better way to do this. Well, why don't we just do it this way then? Alright. So the cool thing with this printer, you're seeing it upside down, that's okay, is that the bed is actually removable. If I take these two clips off the back, and it seems that the back is the only safe place for these clips. But if I take those clips off, you can actually see this whole thing is removable. And that's useful. It's not the best, but basically what it allows you to do is kind of flex this whole sheet and sort of crackle the part right off. It's not as flexible as like some of the magnetic beds, but I don't think it is magnetic, so it's safer for higher temperatures. So you can hear that. So all I have to do is just keep flexing it, and it might pop off by itself, but even if it doesn't, at least it's loose, and I can probably just pry it off my hand or my spatula. Come on. Go. So, kind of awkward to do with one hand. Alright. The other thing I found with this is that the skirts and stuff are not so easy to clean off. I found that the pseudo glass ceramic of the Tevo Tornado much easier to clean. You can just use some rubbing alcohol and clean it. So anyways, here is the coin. So again, it's from this transparent material. And look, it's so transparent that I can't even, like, the contrast is too much. But if I zoom in, you can see see the difference between the white and the blue through there. Can't really read it, but yeah. So this is my this is gonna be my new logo, Pet Prince. And so to explain, I was gonna I tried a few times to make a video of me actually making this in Fusion 360, but it just never came out right. I'm more of this style. Oh jeez, I'm already dropped the coin, but let's see if it survived. From my hand to the thing to the floor. It looks fine. My style of video is more of this, just long, drawn-out live streams. I'm not really good at making concise content. I know I can do it if I put a lot of effort into it, but really I'm just doing this, as I mentioned before, to document stuff, so that's not really the important bit to me. The important bit for me is just to have all this stuff here on record. So yeah, and I mean, it feels pretty good. It feels like a coin. Feels like I feel a maker coin should feel like. These ridges all around. If you want to know how to make a maker coin yourself, your own design, doesn't have to be for 3D printing, just be 3D modeling. You can check out the 2 tutorials I followed, were Maker's Muse, who was kind of the original connoisseur of maker coins, hence them called maker coins, because Maker's Muse. And then also 3D Printing Nerd's tutorial, where he basically did what I did, and watched a tutorial or got taught once, and then just tried to replicate it. And he does a whole tutorial you can follow along step by step, and he makes mistakes, and then you learn from his mistakes and that kind of stuff. So it's really useful. Pretty good. I think what I'm going to do is maybe put a string through the P in the hole, and then just like hang it from my backpack or something, so I can have it always with me. Maybe I'll do something like every time I get a new color, I'll print one of these, and I'll just have a collection of them, which unfortunately I've already run out of the red stuff and the gold stuff, so can't really do that for those colors. I might rebuy them, they're pretty good. I like the goldish one, but maybe I'll get like a proper name brand one that was also a Chinese gold color. But yeah, that's the coin. So I gotta clean up. I gotta turn this off and cool it down and blah blah blah. So that's the Ender 3. It's getting pretty late. I probably won't do another print on the Ender 3 tonight. Um, Although this print on the Tevo Tornado. Let's see. Oops. Let's focus so I can see. Does it say? It says. I think that says an hour and 45 has passed. Doesn't know how long it is remaining, but if we go on Octoprint here, it should tell us. Yeah, so it looks like we're a third of the way done. 3 hours left. So 4-hour print? I was hoping it's more of a 3-hour print. So hopefully this is done by the time I go to bed. And yeah, so this is kind of the major thing I wanted to show off. I was gonna coat it in this varnish. Doesn't seem to reduce the shine. I had this test, and this side, it's kind of rougher side, which has sort of 2 angles of shine. I coated in the varnish, and then this smoother side I coated in like a matte acrylic, and obviously matte is going to make it lose some of its shine. It's not so bad, but it looks more like a gray than a silver. So the lacquer stuff looks good. So I'm probably going to lacquer the whole thing. I only have, let's say a few hours, maybe 2 hours to do that. So I'm just going to use this and a brush. I think I've got a brush here, yeah. So I'm just going to just coat the whole thing in a nice layer. And that'll be it. So yeah, thanks for this update. I think I've shown off everything. The main things for today that were new was that I finished this, those 4 prints plus the coin that just finished. This print in progress, which is for the Ender 3 that I will probably post about later, and all the things I had to actually do to the Ender 3 to get it to print nicely and not be loud as balls. Unfortunately, the one issue that still remains is I want to put a dampener on the E-motor, but this screw will not come out. There's 2 little, I don't know what you call them, like tightening screws, this little black screw in there, and the Allen keys don't fit. One size up doesn't work, doesn't go in. One size down, and it's like a 0.5 millimeters size difference, and it's too loose. So it almost seems like this is stripped from the factory, which is crazy. I don't think that's right for this to be stripped from the factory. So probably going to invest in a new extruder. I heard there's some good ones for printing flexible filaments and stuff, which is probably what I want to use this for. Not exclusively for flexible filaments, but for I use the Ender 3 for my minis and maybe parts that are not too big that need to be accurate. What's it called? Dimensionally accurate. And then use the Tevo Tornado for my terrain and props and other stuff like that. I haven't actually printed any props on this yet. What I wanted to do was print scale versions of props to test out dimensional accuracy and stuff like that, and then eventually build full-size versions. I want to build a helmet. Maybe I should start off with like a Renaissance mask at least, just to know that it works. I don't know. We shall see. Interesting time. And as you can see, this whole this is on a very rickety setup here, and like I have parts and stuff everywhere. Oh, right. This is the biggest thing I printed on the Tevo Tornado as well. So this is pretty big. Like, I mean, like, it's big. It's the whole Tornado. Obviously, my feet are not a great scaler because it could be any size, but if we look at it here, like, that's pretty big. So basically the biggest thing I printed. But unfortunately, the angles were just too sharp for a single walled print. So it has these weird ripply lines. Probably due to cooling. Wasn't good enough. So the only thing I think I want to do left to the Tornado is print the rest of these for all the sides, and I have to test fit this to make sure it works. A new camera mount because this one's busted, and then probably a fan duct like a Pet's Fang or Bullseye or something like that. And then I have tons of stuff to do to the Ender 3. The Ender 3 comes with these nice big wheels. It's basically the same idea, except this comes stock. Like, why don't all printers come stock like this? And the screws are like sunk in. They don't move at all. Like, Ender 3 is, I think, the better built machine, even with all the issues I had. And the Tevo Tornado is just a great value for the size. But they don't even include a frickin' spool holder in the box. You have to print it as your first print, basically. And also it has the external pack control box, which makes moving it around really inconvenient. Whereas this thing, I just can pivot it one way or pivot the other way, and the whole thing is one unit. Carry it across and that kind of stuff. So, but of course for volume, which, I mean, wanting to do props and stuff, you can't beat this volume for this price. I don't think you can. And there's even bigger printers you can get. And this is pretty big. I mean, it takes up a huge chunk of my room. It takes up this entire table that I got just for it. So it's kind of annoying. Whereas this, it's on my table with my computer, and I could probably even fit my second monitor, which is currently on the floor. I can probably fit that behind the printer and just kind of have the printer off to the side. But I might eventually move the Ender 3 to the floor, just so it's out of the way. But I have to be careful about kicking it, which I probably will end up doing. Alright, I'm going to end the live stream. So it's documenting all the stuff for today, and I probably won't do an update like every day, but I'll try and do it as I print stuff. So I might go a week without printing stuff because I'm so busy that just dealing with printer headaches is not what I want to do. But I'm gonna have the whole week of Christmas off and use that time for sure to print and mod and do all sorts of stuff. So yeah, that's it from me. See ya.